13 software engineers couldn't fix the billionaire's laptop until the poor black boy pressed one key. The sound that filled the conference room wasn't shouting, arguing, or panic. It was worst silence. A thick, humiliating silence that pressed down on every person standing around the long walnut conference table. 13 of the world's most elite software engineers, men and women flown in on private jets, paid more in a day than most people earned in a year, stood frozen, eyes locked on the open laptop at the center of the table. The screen was black, dead, unresponsive, and it had been that way for hours. At the head of the table sat the billionaire. He was an elderly man, approximately 75 to 85 years old, with short white-gray hair neatly combed back, revealing a thinning, receding hairline that gave him an air of sharp authority. His fair skin was pale under the bright office lights. His clean-shaven face, a face that had terrified boardrooms and bent governments, now showed something rarely seen. Shocked. His eyes were widened, his mouth slightly open, and his head leaned forward just enough to show disbelief rather than anger. He wore a navy blue blazer, perfectly tailored, formal, and immaculate. Beneath it was a light blue button-up shirt, collar crisp, no tie, projecting quiet wealth and absolute control. Except control was the one thing he didn't have anymore. That laptop, he said slowly, his voice low and tight, contains 30 years of proprietary data. No one spoke. It contains encryption keys that only exist in one place, he continued. It contains contracts that haven't been signed yet, and secrets that cannot leave this room. Still silence. One engineer finally cleared his throat. "Sir, we've tried everything." Another engineer nodded quickly. "We rebuilt the operating system from scratch. We checked the motherboard," someone added. "The security firmware, the BIOS lock, the encryption module, the hardware kill switch." Each explanation only deepened the billionaire's disbelief. 13 experts. 13 failures. The billionaire leaned back slightly, his hands flat on the table, fingers spread, staring at the dark screen as if it had personally betrayed him. Then the glass door opened. The sound was soft, almost polite. No one looked up at first. A small black boy, about 8 to 10 years old, stepped inside. He didn't walk confidently. He didn't sneak either. He moved carefully, as if he knew he wasn't supposed to be there, but had nowhere else to go. He had dark skin, short, tightly coiled black hair, and a slim, childlike build. His face was young but tired in a way children shouldn't be. He wore a beige t-shirt, old and visibly worn, with small tears near the shoulder and faint dirt stains across the fabric. His pants were faded and loose, held up by hope more than a belt. He stood near the door, eyes scanning the room. Glass walls, leather chairs, polished floors. People dressed in suits worth more than his entire home if he even had one. He didn't speak. He just looked. One of the engineers noticed him and froze. "Excuse me?" she whispered, eyes widening. "Why is there a child in here?" Another woman covered her mouth, shock written across her face. The billionaire turned slowly. His gaze landed on the boy. For a brief moment, irritation flashed across his face. He didn't like interruptions. He didn't like unpredictability. And he certainly didn't like distractions when billions of dollars were at stake. "How did you get in here?" he asked. The boy hesitated. "I was cleaning the hallway," he said quietly. "They told me to wait inside." A few engineers exchanged glances. One of them muttered, "That's the janitor's kid." The billionaire studied him. The boy's eyes weren't wandering. They weren't afraid. They were locked, focused on the laptop. That didn't go unnoticed. "Hey," one engineer snapped, uncomfortable. "You can't touch that." The boy hadn't touched anything yet, but he took a step forward, then another. The billionaire raised a hand. "Wait." Everyone froze. The boy stopped beside the table. The laptop was inches away from him now. He tilted his head slightly, staring at the dark screen, then at the keyboard, then at the power button. His brow furrowed. "That's weird," he murmured. 13 engineers stiffened. "What did you say?" one of them asked sharply. The boy swallowed. "It's not broken." The room reacted instantly. A few engineers laughed short, uncomfortable laughs. One scoffed openly. Another shook his head in disbelief. The billionaire didn't laugh. He leaned forward. "What do you mean it's not broken?" he asked calmly. The boy pointed, not touching yet, just pointing. "You're trying to wake it the wrong way." The air changed. The billionaire's eyes narrowed, not in anger, but curiosity. "Go on," he said. The engineers protested immediately. "Sir, with all respect, this is ridiculous. Seen this model hundreds of times." The billionaire raised his hand again. "Let him speak." The boy took a breath. "My mom has one like this at the library," he said softly. "When it freezes like that, it's not asleep. It's stuck." "Stuck how?" the billionaire asked. The boy leaned closer. "Between on and off." The room went silent again, and this time, it wasn't humiliation. It was anticipation. Asterisk. No one spoke for several seconds after the boy's last words. "Between on and off." The phrase hung in the air like a dare. One of the engineers let out a short laugh, sharp and nervous. "Sir, with all due respect, that's not how enterprise hardware works." Another crossed his arms. "We've already run every power state diagnostic available." The billionaire didn't look at them. His gaze stayed fixed on the boy, on the way the child's eyes weren't wide with fear or excitement, but narrowed in concentration, as if the laptop were a puzzle begging to be solved. "Explain," the billionaire said. The boy hesitated, clearly aware of the room full of adults staring down at him. Then he spoke anyway. "When you press the power button," he said, pointing at it again without touching, "it's not really turning off. It's just pretending. Like when you close your eyes but you're still awake." A few engineers shifted uncomfortably. "The machine thinks it's sleeping," the boy continued, "but one thing keeps it awake. So it never starts again." "That's impossible," an engineer snapped. "The firmware would." The billionaire raised a finger. "Let him finish." The boy nodded gratefully and continued. "There's a key that tells it to stop pretending." "A beat? What key?" the billionaire asked. The boy swallowed. "I don't know what it's called." Several engineers smirked. "But I know where it is." The billionaire leaned back in his chair slowly, studying the boy from head to toe. He had seen confidence before: false confidence, rehearsed confidence, corporate confidence. This was different. This was quiet certainty, the kind that came from someone who had nothing to prove. "Show me," he said. The engineers erupted. "Sir, this is reckless. If he damages the system, that laptop is worth—" "I know exactly what it's worth," the billionaire said, voice calm but final. "And I also know 13 experts have failed." Silence followed. The billionaire nodded to the boy. "Go ahead." The boy stepped closer to the table. The laptop loomed large in front of him, its sleek metallic surface reflecting the overhead lights. He climbed slightly onto the edge of the chair to reach the keyboard properly, careful not to touch anything else. He placed one small finger over a key near the top left corner. An engineer inhaled sharply. "That's—" The boy paused and looked up at the billionaire. "Can I?" The billionaire nodded once. "Do it." The boy pressed the key. Nothing happened. A few engineers exhaled in relief. The boy didn't react. Instead, he pressed another key, this time holding it down while pressing the first again. He counted softly under his breath. 1, 2, 3. The screen flickered. A sharp intake of breath rippled through the room. The boy didn't stop. He pressed a third key now, still holding the others. His small hands stretched awkwardly across the keyboard. The laptop fan whirred. The billionaire's eyes widened. "What did you just do?" One engineer whispered. The screen lit up. Not fully, just a faint glow at first. Then a logo appeared. The room exploded. Oh my, no way. That can't be. The billionaire shot to his feet. Chair scraping loudly against the floor. The laptop continued booting. Lines of code flashed across the screen, clean and fast. The familiar startup sequence unfolded like a resurrection. The boy released the keys and stepped back, for a moment. No one moved. Then the system finished loading. The desktop appeared, fully operational. One engineer dropped into a chair, hands on his head. Another stared at the screen as if it might disappear if he blinked. The billionaire leaned forward, hands braced on the table, staring at the screen he had believed lost forever. "It's back," he said quietly. The boy nodded. "Yeah." An engineer turned on him sharply. "How did you know that?" The boy shrugged. "Happened to the computers at school. They get stuck like that when someone shuts them down too fast." "But this is custom hardware," another engineer insisted. "Military-grade encryption. Proprietary firmware." The boy tilted his head. "Still a computer." The billionaire let out a short breath, half a laugh, half disbelief. "What's your name?" he asked. "Marcus," the boy replied. "Marcus," the billionaire repeated slowly, tasting the name. "Do you understand what you just did?" Marcus shook his head. "I just helped." The billionaire looked around the room. 13 engineers, some embarrassed, some stunned, some quietly impressed. "You may all leave us," he said. "What?" One engineer blurted. "Leave," the billionaire repeated. "Now." Reluctantly, the engineers gathered their devices and filed out, casting lingering looks at Marcus as they went. The glass door closed behind them, sealing the room in sudden quiet. Asterisk. The billionaire turned back to the boy. "You're not a janitor's kid," he said. Marcus looked down. "My mom cleans floors here sometimes." "That's not what I meant," the billionaire said. "You see patterns others miss." Marcus shrugged again, uncomfortable with the attention. The billionaire circled the table slowly, eyes never leaving the boy. "Do you know how much those engineers cost me today?" Marcus shook his head. "Enough to buy every house on your street," the billionaire said. Marcus's eyes widened. "And yet," the billionaire continued, "none of them solve what you did in under a minute." He stopped in front of Marcus. "Where did you learn that?" Marcus hesitated. "I fix old computers for people. They give me food sometimes." The billionaire straightened. Something shifting in his expression, not pity. Not charity but recognition. "Marcus," he said, "what would you say if I told you this was only the beginning?" Marcus looked up, confused. "The beginning of what?" he asked. The billionaire smiled slowly. "Of everything changing." Marcus didn't know how to answer that. Everything changing sounded like something people in movies said right before dramatic music started playing. In real life, things didn't change like that. Not for kids who fixed broken keyboards in exchange for sandwiches. Not for boys whose shoes wore out faster than their chances. He shifted his weight, suddenly very aware of how quiet the room was. "I should go," Marcus said softly. "My mom will be done soon." The billionaire didn't stop him, but he didn't move away either. "What floor does she clean?" he asked. Marcus hesitated. "Depends, tonight. 14, I think." The billionaire nodded as if committing it to memory. Then he walked back to the laptop, tapped a few keys, and the screen changed to a dense dashboard filled with charts, files, and encrypted folders. "You see this?" he asked, motioning Marcus closer. Marcus leaned forward cautiously. "That computer," the billionaire said, "controls more than email and spreadsheets. It holds contracts, research, security access, medical investments, disaster response systems." Marcus frowned. "Why keep all that in one place?" The billionaire smiled faintly. "Because when you believe you can't fail, you stop planning for it. Marcus looked back at the laptop, then up at the man. But it almost failed. Yes, the billionaire said quietly. It did. For the first time, the man looked shaken, not by the technical failure, but by what it represented. A knock came at the glass door. One of the engineers peeked in nervously. "Sir, everything okay?" The billionaire didn't turn around. "Yes, but I want a full report on why a child solved what 13 professionals couldn't." The engineer swallowed. "Understood. And one more thing," the billionaire added. "Effective immediately, no one touches this machine without my approval." The door closed again. Marcus took a step back. "I really should go." This time, the billionaire turned to him fully. "You can," he said. "But before you do, tell me something." Marcus looked up. "When you saw the laptop," the billionaire asked, "were you scared?" Marcus thought for a moment. "No. Why not?" "Because it was already broken," Marcus replied simply. "Broken things don't get worse just because you try." The billionaire stared at him, then let out a slow breath. "That," he said, "is a dangerous way to think." Marcus shrugged. "It works." The billionaire laughed quietly, an unguarded sound. Not the polished laugh he used in boardrooms and interviews. "Come," he said, gesturing toward the door. "I'll walk you out." They moved through the hallway together. The polished floors reflecting their mismatched figures, one in a tailored navy suit, the other in a stained, torn t-shirt and worn shoes. Employees stopped pretending not to stare. Some whispered. Others just froze, confused by the sight of the most powerful man in the building, walking beside a small boy like an equal. In the elevator, silence settled again. The billionaire glanced down. "Do you like school?" Marcus hesitated. "I like the library." The billionaire nodded. "And teachers?" Marcus shrugged. "Some listen. Some don't." The elevator doors opened onto the lobby. Evening light spilled in through the glass walls, bathing the marble floor in warm gold. At the far end, Marcus spotted his mother, mop in hand. Shoulders slumped from a long shift. "She's there," Marcus said quickly. The billionaire followed his gaze. "She works hard," he said. Marcus nodded. "She always says we'll be okay." The billionaire watched the woman for a long moment. Then he reached into his jacket, not for money, but for a sleek black card. He held it out. Marcus stepped back instinctively. "I didn't do it for that." "I know," the billionaire said. "That's why I'm offering." Marcus frowned. "What is it?" "My direct contact," the billionaire replied. "Not my assistant. Not my office, me." Marcus stared at the card like it might burn him. "Why?" he asked. "Because one day," the billionaire said, "you'll run into a problem no one around you can fix. And when that happens, I want you to have a door that opens." Marcus looked from the card to his mother, then back again. Slowly he took it. "I don't have a phone," he admitted. The billionaire smiled. "We'll fix that." Before Marcus could respond, his mother noticed him. "Marcus!" she called, alarm flashing across her face as she hurried over. "Where did you go?" "I told you to stay." She stopped short when she saw who he was standing next to. Her eyes widened. I'm sorry, sir. If he touched anything, he saved me," the billionaire said calmly. She blinked. "What? He fixed a problem my entire team couldn't," the billionaire continued. "You should be very proud." Tears welled instantly in her eyes. "Marcus, what did you do?" Marcus looked down. "Just pressed some keys." The billionaire chuckled. "I'd like permission to speak with you both sometime soon," he said gently. "Not here. Not now. Somewhere comfortable." She looked overwhelmed, confused, afraid. "I'm not asking for anything today," he added quickly. "Just an opportunity." Marcus tugged lightly at her sleeve. "Mom." "He's okay." She looked at her son, really looked at him, and saw something. new in his eyes, confidence, calm, certainty. She nodded slowly. "Okay." The billionaire inclined his head. "Thank you." As he turned to leave, Marcus called out, "Mister?" He stopped. "You never told me your name." The billionaire smiled. "That's because," he said, "I was hoping you'd remember it later." He paused, then added, "But you can call me Mr. Holly." Marcus nodded, committing it to memory. As Mr. Holly walked away, the lobby seemed to breathe again. Conversations resumed. Phones buzzed. Life went on, but Marcus stood very still, because for the first time in his life, the future didn't feel like a closed door. It felt like a system rebooting. That night, Marcus barely slept. The black card sat on the small table beside the mattress he shared with his mother, catching the dim light from the street lamp outside. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the laptop screen flashing back to life, the stunned faces of the adults in the conference room, and the way Mr. Hale's voice had softened when he said, "You saved me." In the morning, life tried to return to normal. Marcus helped his mother pack cleaning supplies. He walked the same cracked sidewalks. He fixed a neighbor's radio for a few coins. But something inside him felt different, like a gear had shifted. Quietly but permanently, 3 days passed. Then, on the 4th evening, a black sedan rolled slowly down their street and stopped in front of their building. Marcus's mother froze. "No," she whispered. "We don't belong to people like that." The car door opened anyway. Mr. Holly stepped out, dressed simply this time. No tie, no entourage. Just a calm presence that didn't feel like it was there to take anything. "I hope I'm not intruding," he said. "I promised myself I wouldn't wait too long." Neighbors peeked from windows. Whispers traveled fast. Marcus stood beside his mother. "He's the laptop guy," he said quietly. Mr. Holly smiled at that. "That's one way to remember me." He didn't go inside. Instead, he suggested they walk. They sat on a worn park bench as the sun dipped low, turning the sky orange and gold. Mr. Holly listened more than he spoke. He asked about Marcus's school, his favorite books, what he liked fixing most. "Things that people give up on," Marcus answered. Mr. Holly nodded. "That makes sense." Then he explained slowly, carefully. He wasn't offering charity. He was offering access, a refurbished laptop, a scholarship program Marcus could grow into, mentors who would teach him, not dismiss him, and work for Marcus's mother. Fair pay, stable hours, dignity. "This isn't a gift," Mr. Holly said. "It's an investment. And like all investments, it comes with expectations." Marcus looked up. "What kind?" "That you keep asking questions," Mr. Holly replied. "And that you never believe your place in the world is already decided." Marcus's mother's hands trembled. "Why us?" Mr. Holly looked at Marcus. "Because brilliance doesn't announce itself with clean clothes or confidence. Sometimes it presses one key when everyone else panics." Silence settled between them, not awkward, but heavy with meaning. When Mr. Holly finally stood to leave, Marcus felt something unexpected. Fear. What if I mess it up? Marcus asked. Mr. Holly crouched so they were eye to eye. "Then you'll fix it. You already know how." The car drove away, leaving the street unchanged, but Marcus knew better. Somewhere deep inside, a path had opened. Not wide, not easy, but real. And for the first time, Marcus believed he was allowed to walk it. The first day Marcus walked into the building, he almost turned around. The glass doors rose taller than anything he had ever seen up close, reflecting the city sky like a mirror that didn't belong to him. People in sharp clothes moved with purpose, badges clipped neatly, voices calm and confident. This was the world that lived on the other side of the screen, the world that had once looked at him and seen nothing more than a distraction. Marcus tightened his grip on the backpack Mr. Holly had given him. It wasn't new, but it was clean, sturdy, and heavy with possibilities. Inside was the refurbished laptop, its surface smooth, its weight reassuring. "You don't have to rush," his mother whispered beside him. She wore a simple uniform now, freshly pressed, her posture straighter than it had been in years. This real job had already changed something in her too. Marcus nodded and stepped forward. Inside, the air felt different, cooler, quieter, like the building itself expected people to think carefully before speaking. A receptionist smiled at him, not politely but genuinely, and handed him a visitor badge with his name printed clearly, Marcus Reed. Seeing his name like that made his chest tighten. They were led to a smaller conference room, far from the one where everything had started. This room had whiteboards, open laptops, and half-erased equations scrawled across the walls. 3 people waited inside, 2 men and 1 woman, none of them wearing suits. "These are your mentors," Mr. Hawley said. "They're not here to impress you, they're here to challenge you." The woman spoke first. "I'm Alina. I break systems for a living." Marcus blinked. "On purpose?" She smiled. "Especially on purpose." The taller man leaned back in his chair. "I'm Raj. I design things that don't exist yet." The third man nodded. "And I'm Thomas. I fix mistakes usually after Raj creates them." They laughed, and the sound eased something in Marcus's shoulders. They didn't start with lectures. They didn't test him. Instead, Alina slid the laptop toward him. "Show us how you think." Marcus hesitated. "About what?" "Anything," she replied. So he did what he always did. He listened to the machine. He checked how long it took to wake up. He noticed the faint delay between keystrokes. He opened simple programs, then closed them, watching memory usage fluctuate. "Why are you smiling?" Raj asked. "It's nervous," Marcus said. The room went quiet. "Nervous?" Thomas repeated. Marcus nodded. "It's trying too hard to protect itself, like it doesn't trust anyone touching it." Alina leaned forward slowly. "What would you do if it were a person?" "I'd tell it to calm down," Marcus said. "Then I'd give it fewer things to worry about." He began typing, not fast, not flashy, just deliberate. He adjusted startup permissions, disabled redundant security layers, rerouted a background process that kept tripping over itself. The mentors watched without interrupting. After a while, Alina exhaled. "You're not solving problems. You're reducing fear." Marcus shrugged. Things work better when they're not scared. By the end of the session, no one doubted why he had pressed that key. But not everyone in the building was convinced. Word spread quickly. Some engineers whispered, others stared. A few smiled indulgently, like adults watching a child play pretend. Marcus felt it. He felt the looks, the quiet skepticism, the unspoken question. How long will this last? One afternoon, he overheard 2 employees talking near the elevators. "He's smart, sure," one said, "but this is a real company." "Real stakes," the other replied. "Kids like that don't usually stay." Marcus didn't confront them. He didn't tell Mr. Hawley. He went home and worked harder. He stayed up late reading borrowed manuals. He practiced logic puzzles until his head hurt. He fixed broken electronics for neighbors, not for money, but for repetition. His mother worried. "You don't have to prove anything," she told him one night. Marcus shook his head. "I know. But I want to." Weeks passed. Then months. The mentors stopped guiding every step. They started asking Marcus what he thought should be done. One afternoon, a minor system failure hit a subsidiary office. Nothing critical, just enough to slow things down. Engineers began the usual procedures. Marcus watched quietly. Then he spoke. "You're fixing the symptom, not the loop." The room paused. Raj raised an eyebrow. "Explain." Marcus pointed to a diagram. "It keeps failing because it's expecting the failure. So it prepares for it, and that preparation causes it." Silence. Then Alina smiled slowly. "Do it." Marcus adjusted one variable. The system stabilized instantly. No applause. No dramatic reaction. Just work continuing smoother than before. That night, Mr. Hawley called Marcus into his office. "You're changing the way people here think," he said. "That's harder than fixing machines." Marcus hesitated. "Some people don't like it." Mr. Hawley nodded. "That means it's working." He stood and walked to the window, hands clasped behind his back. "When I was young, I believed intelligence looked a certain way, sounded a certain way. You reminded me how wrong that belief was." Marcus looked down. "I didn't mean to, I know, Mr. Hawley said gently. "That's the best kind of change." Outside, the city lights flickered on, one by one. Marcus watched them, thinking of all the systems running quietly beneath the surface, waiting for someone to understand them instead of forcing them. He wasn't just fixing laptops anymore. He was learning how to fix the world that decided who mattered. And that scared some people, but it didn't scare him. Not anymore. Asterisk. The moment that changed everything didn't come with alarms or applause. It arrived quietly on an ordinary Tuesday morning. Marcus was sitting at his usual desk, headphones slightly crooked, eyes focused on a screen filled with lines of code that most people in the building wouldn't touch without 3 layers of approval. Around him, the office hummed the way it always did, keyboards tapping, soft conversations, the distant whir of machines doing exactly what they were told. Then every screen went dark. Not just in one department. Not just on one floor. The entire building froze. A low murmur spread. Chairs scraped back. Phones came out. Engineers stood up almost in unison. Within seconds, alerts lit up emergency panels. A core system, one that controlled access permissions across multiple subsidiaries, had shut itself down to prevent what it believed was a breach. Billions of dollars worth of operations were suddenly paused. People rushed toward the main control room. Marcus didn't. He stared at his screen, then slowly removed his headphones. He had seen this pattern before, not in a system this large, but in smaller ones that panicked when too many safeguards tried to take control at once. While teams gathered, voices overlapping, Marcus stood up and walked calmly toward the side terminal. No one was paying attention to Mr. Hawley arrived moments later, his expression focused but steady. He didn't shout. He didn't demand updates. He scanned the room, then his eyes found Marcus. Marcus looked back, just briefly. Mr. Hawley nodded once. That was all. Marcus typed. He didn't override the system. He didn't force it open. He traced the loop that had closed in on itself, followed the logic step by step, and did the simplest thing possible. He told the system to wait, just long enough to realize it wasn't under attack. 1 minute passed, then another. Lights flickered back on across the building. Screens refreshed. Access restored. Operations resumed as if nothing had happened, except everything had. The room went silent. Someone whispered. How did he know? Marcus stepped back from the terminal. His hands were steady, his face calm. I've seen fear do that before, he said softly. It wasn't broken. It just needed space. No one laughed. No one questioned him. That afternoon, an internal memo went out, not praising Marcus, not spotlighting him, but quietly announcing a new initiative. Adaptive systems thinking, led by a junior analyst. For the first time, Marcus's badge was permanent. Weeks later, Mr. Hawley invited Marcus and his mother to his office. I won't always be here, Mr. Hawley said, his voice reflective, but what you started will be. He slid a folder across the desk. Not contracts, not numbers. Plans, a foundation. Education programs. Access pathways for kids who were never supposed to make it into rooms like that conference room. This was always bigger than a laptop, Mr. Hawley said. Marcus looked at the folder, then at his mother. Her eyes were wet, her smile quiet and proud. I didn't press a key to change everything, Marcus said. Mr. Hawley smiled. No, you pressed it because you understood when everyone else tried to control. Years later, people would tell the story wrong. They'd say a billionaire was saved by a genius child. They'd say luck was involved. They'd say it was destiny. But the truth was simpler. A room full of experts tried to force an answer, and a boy, once overlooked, once invisible, listened instead. And sometimes, that's all it takes to change the future.